O Lord our Governor, how glorious is your name in all the world. Your majesty above the heavens is praised, out of the mouths of babes at the breast. You have founded a stronghold against your foes, that you might still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, the works of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have ordained. What are mortals that you should be mindful of them? Mere human beings that you should seek them out. You have made them little lower than the angels, and crowned them with glory and honour. You have given them dominion over the works of your hands, and put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, even the wild beasts of the field, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and whatsoever moves in the paths of the sea. O Lord our Governor, how glorious is your name in all the world. Hi, my name's Luke and I'm the curate at Christ Church Beckenham, and it's a joy to be able to bring to you some thoughts from Psalm 8 that we've just heard today. This is our last week of looking at the Psalms during our lunchtime reflections before Nigel introduces a new theme on Monday. Psalm 8 is a psalm that I was challenged to learn off by heart a few years ago. And as you've just seen, it hasn't really stuck. But I want to encourage you that committing scripture to memory is a really good thing to do. I think it beats using brain training apps on your mobile phone or on your tablet. And so maybe that's something that we could try and do together over the coming weeks. Let's see what scriptures we can commit to memory afresh. And not just memorize them in our heads, but learn them in our hearts. Anyway, some thoughts from Psalm 8 today. This has been described as an unsurpassing example of what a hymn should be. And like any good hymn, it immediately starts with focusing on God, on who He is. O Lord, our Governor, how glorious is your name in all the world. It starts by thinking about God's global glory, but also about His personal lordship. At this time, perhaps more than ever, we're really aware about how the words of those in authority have impact on our lives. Many were waiting with anticipation this last Sunday to hear how the words of the government would shape our lives over the coming days and weeks and months. But even more so for us as followers of Jesus Christ, it's the words of God that shape our thoughts and that shape our actions daily. What does it really mean to say that Jesus is Lord? Well, it means that what He says goes in our lives and in our hearts. The psalmist moves on from thinking about a global hymn, a cosmic hymn of praise, reflections of the heavens declaring the glory of the Lord, to thinking about the seemingly insignificant praise that comes from the mouth of a baby or a child. But that, the psalmist says, is the song of praise that the Lord uses to silence His enemies, to silence His foes, and to establish a stronghold for His people. Now, we're all called to be children of God. We're called to have childlike faith. And so I want to encourage you today that if you're struggling to keep sight of hope, if you're struggling to not pay attention to or focus on the seemingly encroaching darkness at this time, then lift up a song, a prayer of praise. Acknowledge who God is, what He's done in creation, what He's done in salvation, what He's done previously in your life, in the life of our community, in the life of His church. And as we lift up that song and that prayer of praise, let's begin to see what it means to see the foes silenced, the voices of those who would oppose God silenced, and to see a stronghold established for God's people. The psalmist then moves on to think about God in creation. And then he thinks about humanity. And he thinks that, wow, against the backdrop of this incredible creation, moon and stars, all that God has made, isn't it amazing that God would choose human beings to be especially mindful of? Mindful means that His heart moves towards us. He's concerned about our condition. He's concerned about how we are doing in every single moment. It says in verse 4 and verse 5, you have crowned them with glory and honour. Here there's not just a thought about what it means for human beings to be made in the image of God, but for the psalmist there's also something prophetic looking ahead to the incarnation, Jesus Christ, in whom divinity and humanity come together. Jesus who receives all glory and honour, who sits at the right hand of the Father. Then the psalmist moves on to think about human beings called and commissioned by God to be stewards of all that he has made. It's an interesting time to be thinking about that, when during this time of lockdown, so much of the planet seems to be being given a chance to breathe. I wonder how much we really are prepared to sacrifice, to change our lifestyle in order to greater fulfill this God-given calling to be stewards of all that God has made. And then the psalm ends where it begun, in praising God, in acknowledging his lordship. O Lord, our governor, how glorious is your name in all the world.